Your Majesty's honorable guests, dear friends and sisters, today I stand before you with a heart full of gratitude and hope, because in the shapes of our lives we find love expressed in many forms. And I would like to speak of one very special form, the love between me and my sister, Sophia, and how that love guides us, strengthens us, and shapes the path we walk together. From earliest childhood, Sophia and I have grown side by side, learning, laughing, sometimes stumbling, always supported by our family, our people, our nation. And as Princess of Asturias, I have learned that service, duty, and love are not separate strands, but weave themselves into one, because to love others is to serve them, to serve is to love them. Sophia, you are my mirror and my anchor. In you I find courage when I am hesitant, and patience when I am hurried. Through you I rediscover that love is not only expressed in grand gestures, but in the small daily acts of kindness, the shared smile, the helping hand, the word of comfort. And those very acts become the foundation of something greater, a future built on compassion, commitment, and trust. As we look ahead, hand in hand, we see the world changing around us. And in that change we commit ourselves to be steady, to shape our love into action, our affection into service, our promise into hope. For we believe that every life touched by kindness, every heart uplifted by solidarity, every voice strengthened by understanding, is a testament that love in its truest shape is a force that transforms. Conclusion. So I invite you all, look at love not just as what we feel, but as how we act. And look at two sisters, Sophia and I, not only as members of a family, but as part of a greater family of humanity. Let our bond remind us that when we stand together, love takes shape in service, in unity, in hope. There is a kind of love that does not need to be declared loudly, because it is present in every look, every shared silence, every small gesture that speaks without words. That love is the one that exists between sisters who have grown together not only in years, but in purpose. I have always believed that there is something extraordinary about the bond that unites two people who share both affection and responsibility. It is not only the connection of childhood memories or the laughter of youth. It is a silent understanding that each step forward is stronger when taken together. Since we were young, my sister and I have learned that love is not about possession, but about presence. She has always been there, beside me, in the moments of discovery and uncertainty, in joy and in challenge. There is a strength in knowing that someone understands your journey even before you speak of it. When we stand side by side, we do not just represent two individuals. We represent what unity means, how love transforms duty into something beautiful, something human. Shared duty is not always easy. It demands sacrifice, patience, and humility. But when it is shared with someone who understands your heart, it becomes lighter. Together, we have learned that responsibility can be an act of love. It is not simply about fulfilling expectations. It is about doing so with sincerity, with the awareness that every action carries meaning for others. When I see my sister's commitment, her calm strength, her compassion, I am reminded that love can be the foundation of service. It is not a burden we carry, it is a light we pass between us. In the moments when life feels heavy, when the demands seem endless, she is the one who steadies me. There are times when duty can feel isolating, when every gesture is watched, every word weighed, but love, the kind that exists between sisters, brings balance to that weight. It reminds me that service is not something to endure, but something to embrace. Because when love guides your actions, even the most demanding responsibility becomes meaningful. We have stood together before many people, each of us aware that our gestures carry more than personal significance. They reflect something larger, a commitment to others, to our nation, to values that go beyond our own lives. And yet, behind all of that formality, there is always the quiet reassurance of sisterhood. When I glance at her in those moments, I see not just family but partnership, not just affection, but a shared promise to do what is right. That silent exchange is a form of courage, one that grows stronger with every test. Sisterly love has taught me that leadership is not only about standing in front. Sometimes it is about standing beside. It is about listening, understanding, and supporting without seeking recognition. We have both learned that true strength lies not in being perfect, but in being united. When one of us falters, the other reminds her why we began this journey. When one of us celebrates a small victory, the other shares in that joy as if it were her own. That is the beauty of shared duty. It creates a bond of trust that nothing can break. I have also discovered that love and duty mirror one another in unexpected ways. Duty gives structure to love, it anchors our emotions in purpose, and love gives warmth to duty. It transforms what could be a mere obligation into a living expression of care. It is a balance we continue to learn every day, whether through study, through service, or through simple acts of kindness. We are shaping our understanding of what it means to serve together. There are moments, I will never forget moments, that do not appear in photographs or speeches. Early mornings filled with quiet determination, shared smiles that hide nervousness before important events, or the calm that comes from knowing you are not alone in facing what lies ahead. Those moments are reminders that love, when combined with duty, can create something profound. It teaches resilience without harshness, humility without weakness, and dedication without losing one's heart. Our paths may not always be identical, but they are intertwined by purpose. We walk different distances, yet always in the same direction. She has her own dreams, her own voice, her own strength, but they all contribute to the same vision of service. There is comfort in that knowledge, that love, when shared, multiplies its impact. It does not confine, it empowers. In the world we live in, people often speak of love as something fleeting or fragile, but I have learned that love grounded in shared duty is the opposite. It endures. It grows quietly, shaped by understanding, by patience, by a mutual belief in something greater than ourselves. It asks not for attention but for integrity. It teaches us that to care deeply is also to act responsibly. When I think of the future, I do not see it as mine alone. I see it as a continuation of what we build together. The example of two sisters who, through affection and duty, strive to honor the people who trust them, to serve with humility, and to represent the best within themselves. It is a path defined by gratitude to those who came before us, to those who walk beside us, and to those who will follow. Every day brings new lessons about balance. There will be moments of uncertainty and moments of triumph, but what remains constant is that love makes the duty worthwhile, and duty gives love its meaning. The two cannot be separated. They are threads woven through the same fabric. That is what sisterly love has taught me, not just to feel, but to act, not just to dream, but to serve. And so, as we continue this shared journey, I hold close the belief that love in its purest form is not simply an emotion. It is a responsibility we gladly accept. It is what allows us to face the world with open hearts and steady hands. It is what reminds us that every act of service, no matter how small, is an act of love. And in that understanding lies our strength, our purpose, and our unity. There are many ways to understand love, but the one that speaks to me most deeply is the love that takes the form of service. It is quiet, constant, and unwavering. It is not born from grand declarations or gestures, but from the everyday choice to care, to listen, and to give. Love as service means recognizing that our lives are not meant to revolve around ourselves alone, but around the good we can bring into the world. It means understanding that affection finds its truest expression when it becomes action. From an early age, I learned that love is not only something you feel, it is something you do. It lives in the way you dedicate yourself to others, how you use your time, your words, your effort to make life a little better for someone else. There is a kind of quiet dignity in service. It asks for no applause, seeks no attention. It simply does what must be done because it is right. That, to me, is what love looks like when it grows into purpose. I have often thought about how love and responsibility intertwine. It is easy to think of duty as something heavy or distant, but when you approach it through love, it becomes lighter. Service ceases to be a task and becomes a privilege. To serve is to love, and to love is to serve. Both are inseparable, each giving meaning to the other. When love guides your sense of duty, it changes the way you see the world. It reminds you that what matters most is not how much you have achieved, but how much of yourself you have given. In moments of silence, when I reflect on what it means to serve, I think of the people I have met, the faces full of hope, the eyes that speak gratitude, the hands that reach out in trust. Those encounters are not fleeting. They stay with me because they remind me that love does not need recognition to have meaning. It finds fulfillment simply in knowing that it has made a difference. That is why love expressed through service is powerful. It connects hearts that might otherwise never meet. Service teaches humility. It reminds us that we are part of something greater than ourselves. To serve is to listen to others, to understand their needs, to place their well-being before your own comfort. It requires patience, empathy, and compassion, qualities that grow stronger the more we practice them. I have seen that love, when translated into service, is not weakened by challenges, rather it grows deeper through them. Because every act of service, however small, becomes a reflection of our shared humanity, there are moments when the path of service can feel demanding, even exhausting. But those are the moments when love proves its strength. True love does not retreat when things are difficult. It stands firm, not out of obligation, but out of care. It is the same kind of love that sustains friendships, families, and communities. Love that perseveres, that heals, that gives without expectation. It is the kind of love that builds nations and unites people. In serving others, we also discover ourselves. We learn who we are when we give, when we choose compassion over indifference, when we act for the good of others without needing to be seen. Service shapes character. It refines us in ways that comfort never can. It teaches us that strength is not about control or power, but about kindness and integrity. There is courage in quiet acts of love, in showing up when it would be easier to turn away, in caring when the world seems indifferent. Love as service is also about continuity. It is not something that happens once and ends. It is built day by day through commitment and constancy. Every gesture matters, from a word of encouragement to an act of support. Each one is a thread that strengthens the fabric of community. In time, those threads form bonds that endure beyond generations. They remind us that what we do for others does not disappear. It echoes in their lives and in the lives they touch. There is also beauty in the simplicity of service. Sometimes love is expressed not in great achievements, but in small, tender actions. A smile that reassures, a moment of listening, a promise kept. These are not acts the world will always notice, but they are the ones that sustain it. Love, when lived through service, does not seek perfection. It seeks sincerity. It is enough to do what you can, where you are, with all your heart. I have learned that service is not about what we give up, but about what we gain in return. Each act of love enriches us in ways that cannot be measured. It fills the heart with meaning and reminds us that our place in the world is defined not by titles or positions, but by the kindness we offer. Love, when it becomes service, allows us to see the world through gentler eyes. It helps us recognize the dignity in every person, the potential in every challenge, the hope in every beginning. Sometimes we think of love as fragile, but in truth, love that serves is one of the strongest forces that exist. It is resilient, enduring, and transformative. It has the power to change not only individual lives, but the direction of entire communities. When people act out of love, their actions ripple outward, touching others in ways they may never see. That is the quiet miracle of service. Its impact is greater than we imagine. As I continue to grow, I carry with me the belief that love and service must always walk together. One gives the other meaning, direction, and strength. Love that remains silent fades. Love that acts endures. It becomes the foundation on which everything else is built: trust, respect, and unity. It teaches us that every act of kindness, no matter how small, contributes to a greater good. There will always be challenges, moments when it feels easier to look away than to help, easier to remain silent than to speak, easier to keep than to give. But love calls us to rise above comfort. It asks us to serve not because it is easy, but because it is right. And in doing so, it reminds us that the greatest joy lies not in what we receive, but in what we give. When I think about the future, I imagine a world where love in the form of service becomes a shared value, where people see each other not as strangers, but as part of the same human story. A world where compassion is not a rarity, but a way of life. That, I believe, is the legacy worth building. And so, I hold close this truth: love that serves never fades. It may not always be seen, but it is always felt. It shapes our character, strengthens our purpose, and brings light even in the quietest corners of our lives. To live with that kind of love is to live with meaning. To serve with that kind of heart is to honor life itself. Hope has always been the quiet companion of every generation that dreams of a better tomorrow. It is not loud or demanding. It does not insist on being noticed. It simply exists steady, enduring, waiting to be nurtured. And when it is joined with purpose, it becomes the most powerful force of all. Hope, to me, is not an abstract idea. It is something we carry within us, something that grows when we choose to believe that the best of humanity is yet to come. And when that belief is shared, it becomes a bridge to the future we all wish to build. The future is not something that arrives fully formed. It is something we create together through every decision, every action, every gesture of care. Each one of us contributes to its shape, and though our roles may differ, our dreams often meet in the same place, a place where peace, kindness, and understanding define how we live. To believe in the future is to trust that even in moments of uncertainty, there is always light ahead. It is to know that the strength of a society lies not only in what it achieves, but in what it hopes for. I have often thought about what it means to carry hope forward. It is not a task for one person alone, nor is it limited to a single generation. It is a shared journey, one that binds us to those who came before and to those who will follow. We inherit not only the world's beauty, but also its challenges. And yet each challenge is an invitation to do better, to continue the work of those who believed that change is possible. Hope asks us not to stand still, but to move, to act, to build. In times of doubt, hope becomes a form of courage. It teaches us that progress rarely happens in great leaps. Often, it is the result of small, consistent steps taken in the right direction. When we hold on to hope, we find the strength to continue even when the path is difficult. We discover that the future is not something to fear, but something to shape. It is shaped by our choices, the choice to care, to respect, to listen, to understand. What inspires me most is the way hope grows stronger when it is shared. I have seen how people, united by a common dream, can achieve what once seemed impossible. When we work together, our hopes merge into something larger than ourselves. It becomes a collective vision, one that gives meaning to effort and purpose to struggle. Hope is not a fragile thing. It endures precisely because it lives within so many hearts at once. I often look at my generation and feel both responsibility and optimism. We are inheriting a world that is complex and demanding, yet full of opportunity. It is a world that needs compassion as much as innovation, dialogue as much as progress. Hope calls us to balance both, to build with wisdom and care, to advance without losing sight of the values that unite us. Our task is not only to imagine the future, but to live in a way that honors it. There are times when the world can seem uncertain, when challenges appear too large to overcome. But it is in those very moments that hope proves its worth. It reminds us that even the smallest light can guide us through darkness. It tells us that no effort is ever wasted if it moves us closer to understanding, peace, or justice. Hope turns what might seem distant into something reachable. It whispers that the future depends not on chance, but on choice. The future we dream of will not be built by one person or one voice, but by the many who believe in its possibility. It will be shaped by the willingness to listen, to collaborate, and to care for one another. It will belong to those who understand that progress is not measured only by technology or success, but by empathy, fairness, and respect. Hope asks us to keep those values alive, not as ideals, but as ways of living. For me, hope is deeply connected to gratitude. When I look at the people who work quietly every day, teachers, nurses, volunteers, those who dedicate their time to others, I see the essence of hope. They remind me that the future is not built by those who wait for change, but by those who create it. Their perseverance gives shape to tomorrow. Their kindness gives meaning to progress. In their actions, love and hope become one. As we look ahead, we must remember that the future belongs to all of us, not just to those who lead or decide. It belongs equally to those who dream, who learn, who care. Each person carries a piece of it, and when those pieces come together, they form something whole. That is why unity is so essential, because hope grows strongest where people stand together. Division weakens the spirit, solidarity strengthens it. Every generation must ask itself what kind of legacy it wishes to leave. For mine, I hope it will be one defined by compassion and responsibility, a generation that does not look away from difficulty, but faces it with determination and faith. Hope is not naive, it is an act of strength. It refuses to accept that what is broken cannot be healed. It insists that the world can always be made better, even if only in small ways, and that each of us has a role in that work. The future, like hope, is not guaranteed.